The kitchen window rattled so hard, I thought the glass might shatter, as another gust of Arctic wind slammed into my house during what the Weather Service was calling the worst blizzard to hit Colorado in 20 years. And that was exactly when I saw the three figures trudging through the whiteout toward my front door. I lived in Thornton, a suburb north of Denver, in a neighborhood called Meadowbrook Estates. The community had been built 5 years ago, and with it came an HOA that had slowly transformed from a reasonable governing body into something resembling a totalitarian regime. The transformation coincided almost perfectly with when Patricia Vanderhoff became president 2 years ago. Patricia was everything you would expect from the stereotypical HOA president. 53 years old, blonde highlights that were always fresh, designer athleisure where that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, and an expression that permanently looked like she had just smelled something offensive. She drove a white Mercedes SUV with a license plate frame that read "Blessed Beyond Measure," and had never worked a day in her life thanks to her husband's tech money. I am Vincent Lawson, and I had been battling with Patricia and her HOA board for the better part of 18 months. It started small. A notice about my trash cans being visible from the street for 20 minutes past the pickup time. Then a complaint about my lawn being a quarter-inch too tall. Then my mailbox being the wrong shade of black. Every week brought a new violation notice, a new fine, a new threat about liens and legal action. But this situation had escalated far beyond petty nonsense. 3 weeks earlier, I had received a certified letter stating that the HOA was exercising its right to conduct a comprehensive property inspection due to multiple reported violations and concerns about property maintenance standards. The letter cited Section 14.7 of the HOA Covenant, which allegedly gave them the right to enter properties for inspections with 72 hours notice. I had immediately called my lawyer, Marcus Chen, who I had retained specifically for HOA issues after the violations started piling up. Marcus was sharp, in his late 30s, and had built a reputation taking down overzealous HOAs across the Denver metro area. He had reviewed my HOA documents thoroughly and delivered good news. Section 14.7 did not exist. The HOA covenant only went up to Section 12, and nowhere in any of the documents did it grant the HOA any right to enter private property. Marcus had sent a cease and desist letter explaining this in very clear legal terms. Patricia's response had been to send another certified letter, this time claiming Section 14.7 was part of an updated covenant amendment that all homeowners had supposedly agreed to in a special meeting last year. I had never received notice of such a meeting, never signed any amendment, and according to Marcus, no such amendment had ever been properly filed with the county. When I refused to allow the inspection, the fine started. $200 per day for failure to comply with mandatory inspection requirements. Within a week, I had racked up $1,400 in completely illegal fines. Marcus was preparing a lawsuit, gathering evidence of the HOA's pattern of harassment not just against me, but against at least 6 other homeowners in the neighborhood. Then, the snowstorm hit. Colorado was no stranger to winter weather, but this was different. The National Weather Service had issued blizzard warnings 3 days in advance. Schools closed, businesses shut down, and the governor declared a state of emergency. The snow started falling on a Tuesday morning and had not stopped. By Wednesday afternoon, we had 26 inches on the ground with drifts approaching 4 feet in some areas. The temperature sat at -8 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind chill made it feel like -30. No reasonable person would be out in this weather. Emergency services were only responding to life-threatening situations. The roads were completely impassable. Even snowplows had been pulled off the streets because the conditions were too dangerous. Which is why seeing 3 people trudging through the blizzard toward my house sent alarm bells ringing immediately. I grabbed my phone and moved toward the front door, keeping away from the windows. Through the frosted glass panel beside the door, I could make out the shapes more clearly now. 3 people, bundled in heavy winter gear, carrying what looked like clipboards and equipment bags. My doorbell rang, the sound barely audible over the howling wind. I did not open the door. Instead, I called out through it. "Who is it?" "Property inspection team," a man's voice shouted back. "We're here for the mandatory inspection of this property." My blood ran cold and then immediately boiled. They were actually trying to do this, in the middle of a blizzard, during a state of emergency. "You need to leave," I called back. "You have no legal right to be here and you're trespassing." "Sir, we have authorization from the HOA to conduct this inspection," the voice responded. "You've been notified multiple times. If you don't comply, the fines will continue to increase." I pulled out my phone and immediately called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. "Vincent, are you okay? This storm is insane." "Marcus, they're here. Right now. 3 people claiming to be an inspection team from the HOA. They're at my front door demanding to inspect my property." There was a pause. "You're joking. In this weather?" "I wish I was joking. Don't let them in. Don't open that door under any circumstances. This is criminal trespassing at minimum. Record everything. I'm calling the police right now." "The police aren't responding to anything except emergencies." "Vincent, this is an emergency. These people are trying to force entry into your home during a blizzard. That's dangerous on multiple levels. Keep them outside, keep recording, and I'll handle it." The doorbell rang again, more insistently this time. Then someone knocked, hard enough that snow fell from the roof over the porch. "Sir, we're freezing out here," a woman's voice called out. "Just let us do our job and we'll be on our way." I felt a surge of anger. They were trying to use the weather that they had voluntarily chosen to come out in as leverage against me. "You chose to come out here," I shouted back. "I didn't ask you to come. You need to leave immediately before I call the police." "We're authorized personnel conducting official business," the first man's voice said. "If you continue to obstruct us, we'll have no choice but to add additional violation fees." That was when I heard my garage door rattle. Someone was trying to open it. My house had a detached garage, accessible from the side yard. The electric opener was locked, but someone was definitely trying to force it. I moved quickly through my kitchen to the door that led to the garage, making sure it was locked and deadbolted. Through the small window in the door, I could see a figure in the garage, clearly having forced open the side door that led from the yard. This had crossed from harassment into breaking and entering. I started recording video on my phone, capturing the figure in my garage as they shined a flashlight around, examining my belongings. "Hey," I shouted, pounding on the door. "You're trespassing. Get out of my garage now." The figure turned, startled, then quickly moved back toward the side door they had entered through. My front doorbell rang again, and this time it did not stop. Someone was just holding their finger on the button. I was shaking with rage and adrenaline. This was not just HOA overreach anymore. This was a coordinated attempt to illegally enter my home using fake authority. My phone rang. It was Marcus. "Don't answer the door," he said immediately when I picked up. "I just got off with Thornton PD. They're sending a unit, but it might take a while in this weather. I'm also on my way." "Marcus, you can't drive in this. It's a blizzard." "I have a Jeep with snow tires and I'm only 15 minutes away in good weather. I'll make it. In the meantime, I need you to do something for me. Tell them through the door that you have counsel present in the home and that any attempt to enter will be recorded and used as evidence in criminal proceedings. You want me to lie about you being here? I'll be there before they know the difference. And Vincent, if they do try to force that door open, call 911 immediately. This has become a public safety issue. The doorbell finally stopped ringing, but the knocking continued. "Sir, we know you're in there," the woman's voice called out. "We have pictures of you moving around." "You're making this much harder than it needs to be." Pictures of me moving around. I went to my front window and carefully looked out. One of the figures outside was holding up a phone, clearly trying to photograph through my windows. I snapped photos of them doing this, making sure to capture their faces and their equipment. "My attorney is present in this home," I called out loudly through the door, following Marcus's instruction. "You are trespassing on private property. Any attempt to enter will be recorded and used as evidence in both criminal and civil proceedings. You have no legal authority to be here." There was silence for a moment, then heated whispered conversation between the people outside. "We're authorized by the HOA covenant," the man's voice said, but there was less confidence in it now. "We have every right to conduct this inspection." "No, you don't," I responded. "The section you're citing doesn't exist. Your covenant amendment was never properly executed or filed. You are private citizens trespassing on private property during a declared state of emergency. Leave now." More whispered conversation. Through the frosted glass, I could see them huddled together, clearly arguing about something. Then my phone buzzed with a text from a number I did not recognize. "This is Patricia Vanderhoff. Call off your lawyer and let the inspection happen. We can reduce your fines if you cooperate." I actually laughed out loud. She was trying to negotiate while her goon squad was literally trespassing on my property. I texted back. "This is illegal trespassing and attempted breaking and entering. The police have been called. I suggest your inspection team leaves immediately." The response came seconds later. "You are in violation of community standards. This is standard procedure. Stop being difficult." I saved all the text messages. Everything was evidence. Outside, I heard an engine struggling. Through the window, I could see headlights approaching slowly down my street. For a moment, I was worried it was more HOA people, but then I recognized Marcus's red Jeep Wrangler crawling through the snow drifts. The three people at my door noticed too. They had a hurried conversation, and I heard one of them say something about leaving, but another voice, the woman's, insisted they had authorization and should stay. Marcus's Jeep pulled into my driveway, and even through the blizzard, I could see him immediately pull out his phone and start recording as he got out of the vehicle. "Excuse me," I heard his voice carrying through the storm. "I'm attorney Marcus Chen, and I represent the owner of this property. You're trespassing. I need to see identification and authorization documents immediately." "We're conducting an authorized inspection," the first man said. "Authorized by whom?" Marcus asked, approaching them with his phone still recording. "The HOA has no legal right to conduct property inspections. The covenant section you're claiming to operate under doesn't exist. You're trespassing, and you've also apparently attempted to enter the garage without permission, which is breaking and entering." "We have every right," the woman said. I could hear the Karen energy in her voice even through the door and the wind. "The HOA president personally authorized this." "The HOA president has no authority to grant access to private property," Marcus said. "I'm going to need to see identification from all three of you right now." "We don't have to show you anything," the woman snapped. "Actually, you do. You're on private property claiming official authorization. Colorado law requires you to identify yourselves and provide documentation of your authority. If you can't do that, you're trespassing and I'm obligated to have you removed." I decided it was time to let Marcus in. I unlocked the door and opened it, immediately hit by a blast of Arctic air that stole my breath. "Marcus, come inside," I called out. The three supposed inspectors tried to follow him, but Marcus turned and held up his hand. "You are not invited onto this property. You stay right there." "We have authorization." The woman practically shrieked. "Show me the document," Marcus demanded. "Right now. Show me the section of the HOA covenant that grants you this right." One of the men fumbled with his clipboard, his hands shaking from either cold or nerves. He pulled out a paper and handed it to Marcus. Marcus studied it for about 10 seconds, then looked up at them with an expression of disbelief. "This is a photocopy of a fabricated document," he said. "The formatting doesn't match any legal covenant document. There's no filing number, no county stamp, no proper execution signatures. This is completely fake." "That's what the HOA president gave us," the man said defensively. "What are your names?" Marcus asked. "Who are you? Are you licensed inspectors?" The three of them exchanged glances. "I'm Brenda Walcott," the woman said. "I'm on the HOA board." Of course she was. Brenda was Patricia's right-hand person, a woman in her late 40s who had moved to the neighborhood specifically to be close to her friend Patricia. She was at every HOA meeting, always seconding Patricia's motions, always voting in lockstep with whatever Patricia wanted. "And you too?" Marcus asked the men. "I'm Gary Peterson. I'm Brenda's husband," one of them mumbled. "Tom Aldrich," the other said. "I'm a contractor the HOA hired for inspections." "Are you a licensed home inspector, Mr. Aldrich?" Marcus asked. "I do general contracting." "That's not what I asked." "Do you have a license to conduct home inspections in the state of Colorado?" Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Not specifically, but I have 30 years of construction experience." "So that's a no," Marcus said. He turned to me. "Vincent, did you know that Brenda Walcott lives 4 houses down from you?" I nodded. I had seen her at HOA meetings, always sitting next to Patricia, always glaring at anyone who dared question any decision. "So let me get this straight," Marcus continued, turning back to them. "During a declared state of emergency, during a blizzard with life-threatening conditions, you three decided to trudge through the snow to conduct an unauthorized inspection of a property, using fabricated documents as your authority. And Miss Walcott, you live in this neighborhood, meaning you put your own life at risk and endangered 2 others to do this." "Why?" "Because he keeps refusing to cooperate," Brenda shouted. "He thinks he can just ignore the rules. He thinks he's special." "What rules?" Marcus asked calmly. "Name the specific rule he's violating that required an emergency inspection during a blizzard." Brenda sputtered. "He's had violations. Multiple violations. His trash cans, his lawn, his mailbox was the wrong color." "Those are all exterior violations that could be observed from the street and have already been addressed in violation notices," Marcus said. "None of those require entering his property. So, why are you really here? What were you planning to inspect inside his home?" None of them answered. "Let me guess," Marcus continued. "You were hoping to find anything that you could cite as a violation. Maybe his water heater is older. Maybe his furnace has some dust. Maybe his smoke detectors are not the latest model. You wanted to manufacture violations to justify the harassment campaign." "This is harassment," Brenda screamed, her voice cracking. "We're just trying to maintain community standards." "You're trespassing," Marcus said flatly. "And you attempted to enter his garage without permission. Mr. Lawson has video evidence of one of you forcing open his garage door and entering the structure." Tom paled visibly. "I didn't break anything. I just looked inside. You entered a locked structure without permission, Marcus said. That's second-degree criminal trespass under Colorado law, a Class 4 felony if you intended to commit a crime while inside. I didn't intend to commit any crime. Then why did you enter? Tom looked at Brenda, who looked like she wanted to melt into the snow. That was when we heard the sirens. Despite the blizzard, a Thornton police SUV was making its way down the street, lights flashing. Brenda immediately started walking toward the street. Come on, we're leaving. You're going to want to stay right there, Marcus called after her. The police are going to want to speak with you. We didn't do anything wrong, she shouted back, but she stopped walking. The police SUV pulled up behind Marcus's Jeep, and 2 officers got out. They were bundled in heavy winter gear, and neither looked happy about being out in this weather. Marcus immediately approached them, holding out his identification. Officers, I'm Marcus Chen, attorney representing the homeowner. These 3 individuals have been trespassing on private property, and one of them committed criminal trespass by forcing entry into a locked garage. The older of the 2 officers, whose nameplate read Rodriguez, nodded and approached the group. All right, what's going on here? Brenda launched into her explanation before anyone else could speak. Officer, we're from the HOA. We're just trying to conduct a standard inspection that this homeowner has been refusing to comply with. This is all a misunderstanding. Madam, do you have authorization to be on this property? Officer Rodriguez asked. Yes, we have authorization from the HOA. I'm going to stop you right there, the officer said, his tone making it clear he had dealt with HOA issues before. Does this homeowner have a legal obligation to allow you onto his property? Yes, it's in the covenant. Marcus stepped forward. Officer, may I provide some context? Rodriguez nodded. Marcus quickly explained the situation. The fake covenant section, the harassment campaign, the escalating fines, and now this attempted forced inspection during a blizzard. He showed the officer the fabricated document they had been carrying. Rodriguez studied it, then looked at Brenda. Madam, this document has no legal standing whatsoever. You understand that, right? It's what the HOA president gave us. That doesn't make it legal, Rodriguez said. He turned to Tom. Sir, did you enter this man's garage? Tom looked like he wanted to disappear. I just looked around. I didn't take anything. Did you have permission to be in there? The HOA authorized it. The HOA doesn't own that garage, Rodriguez said. Did the property owner give you permission? Tom did not answer. Rodriguez sighed deeply. All right, here's what's going to happen. Mr. Chen, does your client want to press charges? I spoke up from my doorway. Absolutely. Brenda gasped. You can't be serious. We're your neighbors. You trespassed on my property and broke into my garage during a blizzard because your friend Patricia is on a power trip, I said. Yes, I'm serious. The second officer, whose nameplate read Kim, pulled out a notebook. I'm going to need statements from everyone. For the next 30 minutes, while the wind howled and the snow continued to fall, we gave our statements. I provided the video evidence from my phone showing Tom in my garage. Marcus provided documentation of the cease and desist letter, the fake covenant section, and the text messages from Patricia. Officer Rodriguez examined everything, then turned to Brenda, Gary, and Tom. You 3 are being cited for trespassing. Mr. Aldrich, you're also being charged with second-degree criminal trespass for entering the garage. You'll all receive court dates in the mail. Brenda's face turned red. This is ridiculous. Patricia said this was legal. Then Patricia gave you bad information, Rodriguez said. Madam, I'm going to give you some advice. HOAs do not have the authority to enter private property without permission. They never have. I don't care what your covenant says or doesn't say. Colorado law is very clear on this. What you did today was illegal, but he's violating community standards. That's a civil matter between him and the HOA, Rodriguez said. It doesn't give you the right to trespass or break into his garage. Now, I suggest you all head home before this weather gets any worse. Gary, who had barely spoken the entire time, tugged on Brenda's arm. Come on, let's go. This was a mistake. No, Brenda pulled away from him. Patricia said we needed to do this. She said if we didn't get proof of violations, the lawyer would win and then everyone could just ignore all the rules. That was the admission Marcus had been waiting for. His eyes lit up, and I knew he had just gotten exactly what he needed for the lawsuit. Miss Walcott, Marcus said carefully, are you saying that Patricia Vanderhoff, the HOA president, specifically instructed you to conduct this illegal inspection to manufacture evidence of violations? Brenda seemed to realize she had said too much. I didn't mean that. I meant she said we should follow the proper procedures. That's not what you just said, Officer Rodriguez noted. You said she told you to get proof of violations. Brenda clamped her mouth shut and refused to say anything more. Officer Kim handed out the citations, and the three would-be inspectors trudged back toward the street. Gary had apparently driven them all in his truck, which was parked 3 houses down. We watched them climb in and slowly drive away through the snow. Mr. Lawson, Officer Rodriguez said, turning to me. I recommend you get a restraining order against your HOA. This behavior is way beyond normal. We're already preparing a lawsuit, Marcus said. But yes, a restraining order is a good idea too. After the officers left, Marcus and I went inside. My house was warm and comfortable, a stark contrast to the Arctic conditions outside. That was insane, I said, finally allowing myself to relax slightly. They actually tried to do it. They did more than try, Marcus said, pulling out his laptop from his bag. They attempted it, failed, admitted to a conspiracy on recording, and provided us with enough evidence to not only win the lawsuit but potentially press criminal charges against Patricia Vanderhoff. Can we really go after her criminally? Conspiracy to commit criminal trespass, fraud, intimidation, harassment. Vincent, she created fake legal documents and instructed people to illegally enter your home. That's serious. Marcus spent the next hour documenting everything while the events were fresh. He had recorded the entire confrontation outside, capturing Brenda's admission about Patricia's instructions. Combined with my video of Tom in my garage, the fake documents, and the text messages from Patricia, we had an overwhelming amount of evidence. I'm going to file an emergency motion on Friday, Marcus said. The courts were closed the rest of the week due to the storm. We'll get a temporary restraining order against the HOA, prohibiting them from contacting you or attempting to access your property. Then we'll file the full lawsuit next week. What are we suing for? Harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, fraud, and attempted illegal entry. We're also going to demand a full audit of the HOA's finances and operations. I have a strong suspicion Patricia has been pulling stunts like this with other homeowners, and I want to know how many. You mentioned there were 6 other homeowners with complaints. At least 6 that I know of, Marcus confirmed. After this gets out, I expect more will come forward. Patricia has made a lot of enemies. Marcus left around 6 that evening. The snow had finally started to let up, though we had received over 30 inches total. The roads would be a mess for days. I spent the evening compiling my own documentation, organizing every violation notice, every fine, every threatening letter the HOA had sent me over the past 18 months. The pattern was clear. It started small and escalated over time. The violations became more frequent, the fines larger, the threats more severe. It was designed to either force me into submission or drive me out of the neighborhood. I was not going anywhere. The next morning, I woke to bright sunshine and a winter wonderland outside. The storm had passed, leaving behind clear blue skies and temperatures that had risen to a balmy 20 degrees. Snowplows were finally making their rounds. My phone rang at 9 a.m. It was Marcus. "Turn on the news," he said. "Channel 4. I flipped on the TV and found the local news. They were doing a story about people who had taken unnecessary risks during the blizzard. And there, caught on someone's doorbell camera, was footage of 3 people trudging through the blizzard. The news anchor was explaining that police had responded to a trespassing call and cited 3 individuals for attempting to conduct an unauthorized HOA inspection during the storm. "Someone in your neighborhood leaked the story," Marcus said. "It's going viral on social media." I checked my phone and found dozens of messages from neighbors. Most were supportive, expressing shock at what Patricia and the HOA had done. A few were from other homeowners who had their own HOA horror stories. One message was particularly interesting. It was from a woman named Sarah Brennan, who lived 2 streets over. She wrote, "I can't believe they did this to you. Patricia has been targeting my family too. We put up a swing set for our kids and she's trying to fine us $500 because it's not in keeping with community aesthetics. My husband is a police officer and even he can't get her to back off. Please let me know if your lawyer is taking other clients. A bunch of us want to join a lawsuit against her." I forwarded the message to Marcus. His response was immediate. "Perfect. The more plaintiffs, the better. Can you get me contact info for everyone who wants to join?" Over the next few days, I became the unofficial coordinator for anti-HOA sentiment in Meadowbrook Estates. 17 homeowners reached out with complaints about Patricia and the HOA board. The stories were remarkably similar. Petty violations that escalated to serious fines. Threats of liens. Selective enforcement of rules against people Patricia did not like while her friends got away with actual violations. One family had been fined for having a political sign in their yard during election season, despite the First Amendment protecting that right. Another had been told their Christmas decorations were excessive and given a violation notice, while Patricia's own house, which looked like it was trying to be visible from space with all the lights, received no complaints. Marcus compiled everything and filed the lawsuit the following Tuesday. The suit named Patricia Vanderhoff personally, along with Brenda Walcott and the HOA as an entity. We were seeking damages for harassment, emotional distress, civil rights violations, and fraud. We were also asking for an injunction to remove Patricia from the HOA board and to require a full forensic audit of HOA finances. That afternoon, I received a hand-delivered letter at my door. It was from Patricia's personal attorney, threatening me with a defamation lawsuit if I did not drop my baseless claims against her. Marcus laughed when I showed him. "Classic intimidation tactic. Let her file. We have everything documented." Patricia's lawyer sent another letter the next day, this time threatening Marcus directly with a bar complaint for unethical conduct. Marcus's response was to file a motion for sanctions against Patricia and her attorney for frivolous threats. Things moved quickly after that. The court granted our emergency restraining order, prohibiting Patricia, Brenda, and anyone acting on behalf of the HOA from contacting me directly or attempting to access my property. The HOA was also ordered to cease all collection attempts on the invalid fines. Patricia violated the restraining order within 48 hours. She showed up at my door at 7 in the morning, pounding on it and screaming that I was destroying the neighborhood and that she would make sure I never felt welcome here again. I recorded everything from inside, never opening the door. Then I called the police. This time, Patricia was arrested for violating the restraining order. She was taken away in handcuffs, screaming the entire time about how unfair it all was, how she was just trying to maintain standards, how I was the real problem. The arrest made the local news again. This time, reporters started digging into Patricia's history as HOA president. What they found was disturbing. Over her 2-year tenure, the HOA had collected over $300,000 in violation fines. The previous board had collected less than $20,000 over 5 years. Where had all that money gone? The HOA's financial reports, which were supposed to be available to homeowners, had been unavailable for review due to administrative backlog for the past 18 months. A reporter from the Denver Post interviewed several homeowners, including me. The story they published was damning. It detailed Patricia's pattern of targeting specific homeowners, the fake covenant sections, the harassment campaigns, and now the criminal trespassing incident. The day after the story ran, I received a call from the district attorney's office. They wanted to discuss the possibility of criminal charges against Patricia beyond just the restraining order violation. The fake legal documents, the conspiracy to commit trespass, and the potential financial fraud were all being investigated. 2 weeks later, the state conducted its forensic audit of the HOA finances. The results were shocking. Patricia had been systematically embezzling money from the HOA for nearly 2 years. The $300,000 in violation fines had mostly gone into accounts she controlled. She had also been overcharging for administrative fees and pocketing the difference. In total, she had stolen over $400,000. Patricia was arrested again, this time for felony theft and fraud. Brenda Walcott was charged as an accomplice, as investigators found evidence she had knowingly helped cover up the financial irregularities. The criminal trial took 8 months. Marcus represented me and several other homeowners in the civil suit, which we paused pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, emails between Patricia and Brenda discussing how to maximize fine revenue, and testimony from Tom Aldrich, who agreed to cooperate in exchange for having his charges reduced. Tom testified that Patricia had specifically told him to find violations, even if he had to use his imagination. He said she wanted ammunition to go after homeowners who questioned her authority. The jury found Patricia guilty on 15 counts of theft, fraud, and forgery. Brenda was convicted on 4 counts of being an accessory. Patricia was sentenced to 6 years in prison and ordered to pay full restitution to the HOA. Brenda received 3 years probation and a substantial fine. The civil suit proceeded after the criminal trial concluded. With Patricia's criminal conviction, the civil case was essentially won before it started. The HOA's insurance company settled with all 17 plaintiff families for a total of $2.3 million. My share was enough to pay off a significant chunk of my mortgage. More importantly, the settlement required a complete restructuring of the HOA. Patricia and Brenda were permanently barred from serving on the board. The covenant was reviewed and revised by an independent attorney to remove all the fabricated sections and to add clear limitations on the board's authority. All existing fines were voided, and homeowners received refunds from the recovered stolen money. The neighborhood voted in a new board that focused on actual community maintenance rather than petty enforcement. They fixed the roads, updated the common areas, and made the HOA something that actually benefited residents rather than terrorizing them. I ran into Gary Peterson at the grocery store about a year after everything concluded. He looked embarrassed when he saw me. "Vincent, I just want to apologize," he said quietly. "I should never have listened to Brenda. That whole thing was insane. She and Patricia fed off each other's craziness." "I'm glad you stopped them before they could hurt more people." "Are you and Brenda still together?" I asked. He shook his head. "Divorced. The probation violation after she contacted you again during the trial was the last straw. I couldn't deal with it anymore." "She still insists she did nothing wrong." I actually felt a bit sorry for him. He had been caught up in his wife's schemes and paid the price alongside her. "Well, I hope things get better for you," I said sincerely. "They already have," he replied. "I moved to a neighborhood without an HOA." I understood that sentiment completely. Life in Meadowbrook Estates became peaceful after that. I maintained my property to reasonable standards, not because some board demanded it, but because I took pride in my home. My lawn was cut when it needed cutting. My trash cans went out on trash day and came back in when I got home from work. My mailbox remained whatever color I chose, which happened to be a nice dark gray. Marcus and I became good friends beyond just the attorney-client relationship. We played golf occasionally and got together for dinner every few months. He had made quite a name for himself as the lawyer who took down one of Colorado's most corrupt HOAs, and his practice flourished. About 2 years after the whole ordeal ended, I was working in my garage on a Saturday afternoon when a car pulled up. A young couple got out and walked up my driveway. "Hi, excuse me," the woman said. "We're looking at houses in this neighborhood. Do you live here?" "I do," I said. "Can I help you with something?" "We just wanted to ask what you thought of the area, and specifically about the HOA. We've been burned before." I smiled. "Well, that's quite a story. You got a few minutes," they did, and I gave them the brief version of events. Their eyes got wider with each detail. "So the HOA president went to prison?" the husband asked, incredulous. 6 years. Though I think she got out after 4 for good behavior. Last I heard, she moved to Arizona. "And things are good now." "Things are great now." The HOA does what it's supposed to do. They maintain common areas, organize neighborhood events, and stay out of people's personal property decisions within reason. It's what an HOA should be. "That's refreshing to hear," the woman said. "The house we're looking at is beautiful, but we were worried about the HOA. This actually makes us feel better about it. Sounds like all the bad actors got cleaned out." "They did," I confirmed. "And the neighborhood learned a valuable lesson about oversight and accountability." They thanked me and headed back to their car. I watched them drive off toward another house for sale 2 streets over. That evening, as I sat on my back deck enjoying the sunset and a cold beer, I thought about everything that had happened. The stress, the anger, the fear when those 3 people showed up during the blizzard. The satisfaction of standing up to bullies and winning. The justice of seeing Patricia face real consequences for her actions. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Hey, just got served with papers from an HOA in Lakewood. Homeowner being fined for having the wrong color flowers. Seriously. Want to meet for coffee next week and help me prepare?" I texted back. "Absolutely. These HOAs never learn, do they?" "Not until someone teaches them," he responded. I raised my beer toward the sunset in a private toast. To standing up for yourself, to good lawyers, to well-timed blizzards, and to the look on Brenda's face when Marcus asked her why she was really there. Some battles are worth fighting, even when the enemy is armed with clipboards and fabricated covenant sections. Especially then. The wind chimed on my porch rang gently in the evening breeze. I had installed them 6 months ago, right after the new HOA board took over. Patricia would have cited them as a violation for excessive noise pollution. The new board did not care, because wind chimes are not excessive, and it was my property. That simple freedom, the ability to hang wind chimes on my own porch without fear of harassment, fines, or middle-aged women trudging through blizzards with fake documents, was worth every moment of the fight. I finished my beer and headed inside, comfortable in the knowledge that my home was truly mine again, and that Patricia Vanderhoff was somewhere far away, hopefully learning that power trips and fake authority eventually run into real lawyers and actual consequences. The garage door was locked, the way it should be. My mailbox was whatever color I wanted. My lawn was maintained to my standards, and nobody was going to show up during the next snowstorm with clipboards and threats. Justice, it turned out, was worth waiting for. Especially when you had it on video.